What's going on, everybody? Kriddle here, back again with another Fortnite Save the World weapon review. And today we're going to be talking about the Spectral Blade. This weapon was obtained during the Week 5 challenge during the Frost Night event. If you did not get it, hopefully it comes back soon because it is an amazing weapon. But let's go ahead and jump over here and take a look at how we have this one perked up. Mine is power level 106 with full legendary perks on it. And I did perk mine up with a crit rating, double crit damage, 45 damage to slow and snared targets because it does snare your targets. Now this is how I have mine set up, but there's a lot of different ways you can possibly set this weapon up, and we're going to go over several of those, and you can kind of pick and choose which one works best for you. But I went with this one because I wanted to get the additional crit rating on there, as I'm going to be playing it with Swordmaster Kin. I'm going to go over how I have my heroes set up in a minute, and different types of hero setups that you can do based on how you perk this weapon. So I went with the crit rating on here, double crit damage, because it gives me a 51.5% crit chance and a 320% crit damage. That kind of normalizes the damage a little bit and makes it a little bit more consistent. You could get rid of this crit rating here and go with triple crit damage if you wanted to, but that would obviously separate that crit damage. You would have a lot of really low lows, and then you would have some really high highs. So it depends on how you want to do that. This would drop down to, I believe, about 43% crit chance if you did get rid of this crit rating here. So that's one of the other builds you could do, though, is to go with triple crit damage. And then if you do that, I will show you another hero setup, but that would be like a Deadly Blade Crash type setup, and you could go in there with really high crit chance because you would have Deadly Blade Crash plus, you know, a crit rating support hero as well, giving you a decently high crit chance with 400, I think it's 455% crit damage on there. Another way you could go with this weapon is to add some attack speed down here. Technically, min-maxing, having the attack speed right here is probably the best way to go, but I felt like this weapon was already fast enough, so I felt like going with the extra damage on here rather than the attack speed. Either one of those will work out really well if you want to have a little bit more attack speed, and theoretically damage is going to be a little bit higher with the attack speed, but I preferred going with it this way. Another way you can go with this, which is just more of a fun build, is going in here and getting the heavy attack energy efficiency, and you can get 2 of those, and then you can also add that in with an Assassin Sarah and then an Energy Thief if you wanted to on top of that. And I mean, you can get some insane amounts of heavy attack efficiency. And because of the way this weapon works with the right click ability, it is basically a dash ability, almost like you're doing the phase shift with an Outlander. So that would allow you to do a lot of consecutive dashes if you wanted to do that. It would make it a fun build, but not a very practical build when you're trying to eliminate Husk. So this is the way that I'm going to go with mine. I would recommend this way. The only thing that I may change would be this going to attack speed, or if I wanted to really go with some really high-end heavy crit damage, I would change this to a crit damage here, and then go over the different types of hero setups. So let's jump into the different types of hero setups, and I'll show you which ones are good for which types of builds that you do on the weapon. Okay, so here is my setup that I'll be using to mess with this weapon today and show you guys how I built it and why I built it the way I did. I do have Swordmaster Kin with Deadly Blade Crash and then Mega Base Kyle. The reason I went this direction is because the damage that Swordmaster Kin does is increased quite a bit with swords, but it has nothing to do with the crit damage, which is why I added in the crit rating on the actual weapon rather than going 3 crit damage on here. So he gets an increase of 24% sword damage here. Also gets an increase from assassination down here for 5% crit damage 5 times. It stacks up to 5 times. And then also you get another 35% down here whenever you are in shadow stance, which you should always be in shadow stance. So Swordmaster Kin does an insane amount of damage with swords. Now, the reason I added in Deadly Blade Crash is just to get that extra crit rating here. Another option, if you do not have Deadly Blade Crash and you do have Dire, this is another option you could go into. It also gives you the same crit rating, but the reason I went with Deadly Blade Crash is because Dire gives you actually less health regen, less shield, and less shield regen than Deadly Blade Crash does. So it's not a huge amount, but it could make a difference when you're playing a ninja, as they are easily eliminated when you're up against things like blasters that are just getting right in your face, or the bees everywhere, or whatever. So again, that is why I have the Mega Base Kyle here as well, because of the Smoke Bomb. And since Ken does have the Smoke Bomb ability, Mega Base Kyle gives him the ability to fully regenerate his shields whenever he uses the Smoke Bomb. So this is the setup that I'll be using, but there's another, there are actually 2 other setups that you could go with. If you wanted to go with a straight crit build, what I would probably do in that case is I would put Dire here, and I would put a Deadly Blade Crash here. And since Deadly Blade Crash does not have the Smoke Bomb ability, I would come over here and I would even change this and put in the stun baton here, which melee critical hits increase the impact and give you a 1.5 second stun. So this is the way I would set it up if you wanted to go with a straight crit build and get those really, really high hits. However, this is not the best way to go, because you're going to be taking a lot of damage as a ninja anyway, and you're going to probably not be able to stay in to the combat as long as you would going with something like Swordmaster Ken. The third option here, if you wanted to just go with the fun build that I was talking about with the heavy efficiency, you could go with a couple different ways here. I believe it is Assassin Sarah. I don't have her leveled up, and I didn't really mess with it, but I believe Assassin Sarah somewhere down here is one of the good options. She gets a very, very high amount. I believe this is her right here, Assassin Sarah. So she gets a really high amount of efficiency. So if we look at her here, you have easy sword, so 150% efficiency here, and then you have down here easier sword for another 100% efficiency with that that right click attack. And then you can also add in something like the energy thief over here as well for your support slot, and it just gets ridiculous how efficient that weapon can actually get. So this is what we're going to be doing with mine. We're going to be going with the Deadly Blade Crash and the Mega Base Kyle. I would highly recommend going this route with this weapon in pretty much every sword build. And the reason for that, like I said already, is because he's going to do a lot of damage with it based on just Swordmaster Ken's abilities. But then also you get a little bit more of that tanky ability because of the smoke screen over here with Mega Base Kyle. So let's jump into it. So here we are all loaded up into the mission. As you can see, this is one of the coolest looking melee weapons. The particle effects on it look great. It's almost got like an icy glow to it. I do have mine set to energy. I didn't really go over that when we were talking about it before, but I would definitely make it energy. The only options here are energy, physical, and then water on this weapon. I would go with the energy so that it works relatively well on everything. If you go with physical, you're going to be doing less damage on those elemental husk, but you're going to be doing more damage on the physical husk. But if you go with water, obviously you're going to be only doing good damage against the fire husk. You're not going to be hardly doing any damage to nature husk, and then the water husk are going to be kind of a middle of the road, a little bit less than they would be with energy. So I would definitely recommend going with energy, and I didn't go over that previously, so just wanted to kind of mention that now. But this right click ability is really what makes this weapon a lot of fun. As you can see, it uses about 30 of your energy when you do this, and that's why you might want to go with like a fun build and go with the Assassin Sarah and get that heavy efficiency on there, and then you could actually add in another 240% heavy efficiency right on the weapon, on the perks itself, and you could just sit there and spam this ability and go, fly across the map. I wouldn't recommend doing that for a normal build when you're trying to actually play the game and eliminate husk and defend your base, but it is a fun build to grab and just run through the game with. Maybe you want to have a soldier that has the ability to phase shift, and that basically gives you 3 phase shifts in a row as a soldier, essentially, is what it would do. So anyway, that is the weapon. This is how fast it attacks. I think it attacks fast enough. Like I said, though, you could go with the attack speed instead of getting that 5th perk on there for an extra 45% damage to snared targets. But I feel like it attacks plenty fast enough, and I like to have that a little bit more damage on there. So this is the weapon. But let's go ahead and jump into a little bit of combat and see how this thing performs. So here's a group of sleeping husk here. We're going to go ahead and wake them up and see how this thing would actually do in a normal combat situation. I do have a couple of blasters here, so what we're going to do is I'm going to take out the little guys so we get into that shadow stance, so we do a little bit extra damage, and then we'll come over here and just take out a blaster really quickly. As you can see, that shadow stance really adds in a good bit of damage, and I'm able to take those blasters out in just a couple of hits. This guy over here is shooting at me, and there you go. Like it pretty much takes out anything in just a couple of swings. That's why I didn't want to go with the extra attack speed on this, because I feel like those 3 attacks are so fast that you're going to be, you know, slash, 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 and pretty much everything is going to be eliminated, whether it's a, you know, a small husk all the way up to the blasters. But the true test is going to be how quick we can take out a smasher. So let's go see if we can find a smasher and see really how well this thing performs, and see if we can actually maintain that damage while taking out a smasher. All right, so I found myself a smasher here. He's got a couple of extra buddies with him, and the reason I wanted to have those extra guys with him is because you're going to get that extra damage whenever you get into shadow stance, and by eliminating husk, you're going to go into shadow stance as Swordmaster Ken. So if I go over here and I eliminate that husk, and then I just slash him a few times, I mean, you can see that I'm taking him out relatively quickly, and I didn't even take that much damage doing so. And then, you know, I already used my smoke bomb, but it'll be back up here in just a second, and I could use my smoke bomb to get that health or that shield back. Boom, there we go. Got my shield back from doing that. So that is why I like to play Swordmaster Ken. He can take out the smashers very, very quickly, and then in addition to that, he can still take out the he can still heal up relatively quickly with that Mega Base Kyle. So there you go. That is the Spectral Blade. But let's go ahead and give our final thoughts on this weapon and a little bit of a final review. Well, there you have it. That is the Spectral Blade. And my final thoughts on this weapon is it is probably the best melee weapon currently in the game. The attack speed's very fast. The amount of damage that it does is insane. And the different ways that you can perk it up are really make it a very versatile and flexible weapon. So I would definitely recommend getting this weapon, leveling it up, and start perking it up over any other melee weapon right now in the game. Like I said, though, if you wanted to, you could go with the extra crit damage up here, you know, and go with that crit build and go with some like Deadly Blade Crash or something. You could do that as a very viable way to go. And then down here, if you wanted to go with the attack speed, you could also just add in that attack speed, another very viable way to go. But I would recommend building your weapon the same way that I did and using Ken if you want to actually have a viable hero with a good weapon that will work in a mission. Right now, melee is not really in the best state in this game, but this would probably be your best overall build if you want to go with a melee build, especially in the high-end game. Anyway, if you have any questions, please feel free to add them to the comments below. You can also come by my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/Kriddle if you would like to try this weapon or any other weapon in the game out. I will craft it for you. Just give me the materials and jump into a mission with me, and I will craft it for you so you don't have to spend all the time and effort leveling it up and perking it up and finding out that you don't actually like it. So that is it. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you next time.